Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 282 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by, you know who it is already, it is the former heavyweight world title challenger, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how we doing, my man?
Good today, my man. How are you?
Always good when speaking with you, my friend. Always good. Getting on to part one, we're going to start here, of course, with the review part, and it was shocking. I'm going to start here with a card that took place on Thursday of last week, Thursday, March the 4th, in the Municipal Boxing Gym, Felix Pagan Pintor in Puerto Rico. Over here, a show promoted by Tom Loeffler and Miguel Cotto. Now, this was wild because we had Sergei Bohachuk, Eddie, a guy with a beautiful record, 18-0 with 18 KOs. He stepped in there against Brandon Adams, a guy who, I think he won the Contender or something like that, one of the late series, you know, like the most recent kind of series of the Contender, if I'm not mistaken. He went into the bout with a record of 22-3. He had a loss on points over 12 to Jamal Charlo back in 2019. He got stopped in 2 rounds by John Thompson, and his other loss came to Willie Monroe Jr. back in 2014. Anyway, he got in there against Sergei Bohachuk. Like I say, perfect, beautiful record, 18-0, 18 KOs, and the upset was sprung. Unbelievable. Bohachuk, he got put down in the final round. He got back up. He was on wobbly legs. It was waved off. I tweeted very early on, about 30 seconds into the first round, I tweeted that Bohachuk was open all night for the left hook pretty much from the first round. And every time Brandon Adams threw the shot, he landed it. Bohachuk was up at the time of the stoppage on the cards. Adams started brightly in the first kind of 2 rounds, but he seemed to fade, and Bohachuk's got this real high work rate, and it started to shine through, but he just wasn't able to put a proper dent in Adams. And Adams, I guess with the experience on his side, fighting American fighters, you know, fighting good fighters, not necessarily big names or anything like that, but I think he's a bit more seasoned than Bohachuk perhaps. And yeah, he was able to catch him, like I say, in the final round, which was round 8. And he just went for it. Huge credit. Left hook after left hook for Brandon Adams for the finish there, and that is a big upset. We keep seeing big upsets, in boxing, in all sports. Actually, it's something to do with this pandemic. I'm telling you, it is crazy. Moving out now to the H Arena in Nantes, France. Over here, Tony Yoko, the Olympic gold medalist, now 10-0. He was able to TKO in the 12th and final round Joe Dzeko, the Belgian fighter. It was for the vacant EBU European Union heavyweight title. Yoko now 10-0, Dzeko now 17-3 with a draw. On the undercard, his wife Estelle Yoko, she's now 9-0, also an Olympic gold medalist. She defended successfully her IBO World Female Lightweight title against Verena Kayser, who's now 14-2. Moving out now to the Dort Federal Event Center in Flint, Michigan, USA. Over here, Clarissa Shields, a win for her. She's now 11-0. A unanimous decision over 10 2-minute rounds against Marie-Eve Decaire, who I think held the IBF title, if I'm not mistaken. So now Clarissa Shields becomes undisputed at 154, as well as, I think in the past she was undisputed. I think it was at 168, I want to say, or 160, whatever. And yeah, she completely won by a shutout. The commentary, by the way, was dreadful, actually. I have to say it. I don't like to be too negative, but the commentary, man, I don't think they praised the other girl not even once in the entire fight. And, she was outclassed, obviously, and we knew what was going to happen and stuff like that, but they just gave her no credit. Like, she'd land a shot and Shields would land a shot right at the same time, simultaneously. Like, I'm talking about not jabs, I'm talking about like they'd land a hook at the same time, completely unnoticed for the challenger. No mention of it at all. Just Shields. Oh, what a shot from Shields. I don't like to see that. I like Clarissa Shields, obviously. We've got a history. She's been on the podcast a few times, and I've got no liking for Decare necessarily, but yeah, I didn't really like the commentary, but a good win for Clarissa Shields. She is making history whether you like her or not. A lot of people aren't a fan of her. I am. They're talking about possibly her going down to 147, which really will be a struggle if Katie Taylor were to move up. That would be a mega fight we'd all love to see. Moving out now to Saturday night at the Firat Arslan Sports Center in Germany. Who fought on this card, I wonder? The man himself, Firat Arslan, in his own arena. He promoted the show and boxed in the main event. He picked up a win. He's now 48-9 with 3 draws. A KO for him in 3 rounds against Gusmir Perdomo, who's now 26-10. Firat Arslan, 50 years of age. He's still rated as the best cruiserweight in Germany. It is bizarre, but that is boxing. That is it, though, for the review part of the show. We've flown through that as quick as possible. Just before we wrap up part 1, the final thing to do is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBO Super-Lightweight World Champion. He is, of course, Mr. Maurice Mighty Mo Hooker. Maurice, welcome to the show, my man.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's absolutely my pleasure. It is going really well. Listen, Maurice, I have known about you for a long time now, but to the more kind of casual audience, especially in the UK, you seem to burst onto the scene right after beating our very own Terry Flanagan, for which we still don't forgive you for. But you become world champion that night in Manchester. After that, you become even more known, obviously defending the title twice against 2 undefeated fighters. You box in the unification after that with Jose Ramirez. Now, Ramirez was the 5th undefeated guy you boxed in a row. It was a great fight while it lasted. It's definitely a thing of the past now, of course, but just give me a couple words on how you look back on that fight there.
I look back at it like, man, I should have fought my fight. I fought that fight in anger. I had some stuff happen the fight week with my old manager I got rid of. But so I fought that fight with a lot of anger. I didn't really stick to the game plan. And I'm here now, and I'm prepared for next week, March 20th.
Absolutely. And obviously after that fight, you made a big decision to move to welterweight, to change trainers. You're now training in the same gym as Terence Crawford, as Jamel Herring, fellow top fighters. You've got Reg, you've got Bomac in that gym. How's that working for you, man?
Man, it's going good now. I'm loving it. It's like family. I learn something new almost every day, so I'm just learning on the job, so I'll be ready to go.
And again, the move up to welterweight, you were always known at 140 for having a huge frame, being really big for the weight. Is this weight class a more kind of natural weight class for you now?
Oh, yeah, this is more natural. I can make 147 easy. 140 is a struggle, a lot of, I made weight then, like middle of the fight, I was get sore, my legs get sore, but 147 will be definitely easier. I'm going to bring my power with me, and I'm going to be ready to go.
And you mentioned your next fight is locked in for March 20th, next weekend, against the undefeated Vergil Ortiz Jr. How much do you rate him as a fighter? Obviously, he's got this very pretty 100% knockout ratio, but how do you assess that?
Yeah, he got a good record. That's good, but I look at everybody he done fought, who he been against. Have he been tested? Have he been tested? We don't know yet. So come next week we're gonna find out. Is he the champion everybody say he is? Is he that guy? Is he the next big thing?
And most fighters don't read too much into the numbers, and sometimes it's right not to, but you've upset the odds before. You've pulled off wins being an underdog. Are you in any way surprised to be the underdog in this fight? You're a former world champion. This guy, with all due respect, hasn't fought anyone close to your level yet.
Man, I feel like it was disrespectful. People put me in the underdog to talk about him. I mean, yeah, he was. Well, I think his record was 16-0, 16 out there. That's cool, but who have he fought? You know, what level he on? I mean, so yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I'm the underdog and the way they have everything set up. Yeah, I was underdog with Flanagan, but look at him. Flanagan's a champion before he fought me. I mean, I accepted. Then I went to England and fought him. Then I was the underdog and I fought Alex Acedo in Oklahoma. I was the world champion. How can I be the underdog? And you see how they have it. I stopped him. So, I mean, now I'm an underdog again. I mean, look at everybody I fought. I fought probably like 6 to 7 undefeated people. Now, I mean, it's just I'm just ready, I'm focused, and they made me train harder.
Yeah, and I believe you. Like I say, the worst thing to do is make you the underdog because you seem to thrive off of that. I don't want you to give away too much, but what do you think will be easier for you against Ortiz Jr.? Do you feel like it'd be easier to beat him on points or perhaps stop him? What do you think's easier for you?
Easy to stop him. I had power in both hands. Have we seen him get punched yet? Have we seen him take a punch? We haven't seen him even get hit, So, I mean, we're going to see what type of guy he is. Can he take a punch? Can he take a body shot? And a lot of people will find out.
Yeah, we're going to see if he can swim in those deep waters that I feel you're going to bring. I'm sure that, sooner rather than later, you want to become world champion at 147. You're currently in the top 15 with the WBC, the WBO, and the IBF. Your gym mate, Terence Crawford, has got the WBO, so we know that fight won't happen. The WBC and IBF champion is the same man, Errol Spence. Is it safe to say that he's the guy you want to fight most in the welterweight division?
I want to say that. That's my bro. We kind of grew up together. We used to fight at the same gym.
Okay.
So I'll probably go for the WBA. I mean, but you never know. You never know. In boxing, you never know.
That's why we love it so much. And one question I'm dying to ask you, because, it's a great question. It's a great fight. Your old weight class, we're finally going to get to see an undisputed champion. We don't have to wait too long till they get it on. Ramirez versus Josh Taylor. What's your thoughts on that one, Maurice?
I mean, can Josh Taylor handle his pressure? I got him winning, but can he handle Ramirez pressure? The non-stop coming, the swinging. Can he handle it? Can he box the whole fight? I mean, I'm leaning towards Josh Taylor to win.
Okay, interesting. But yeah, you're right. I can't wait to see the fight, and of course, the pressure that Ramirez brings always makes it exciting. And just finally, Maurice, before we let you go, I like to ask this question to everyone that we speak to from overseas, because we get some really good answers. Who would you say springs to mind? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit when I ask, who's your favourite fighter from the UK? It can be a guy that's fighting still now. It can be a guy that retired 50 years ago, anywhere in history. Who comes to mind?
Oh, okay. Let me see. I like Ricky Hatton.
Okay.
I like Ricky Hatton. He's a pretty exciting fighter. He come to fight.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. A lot of people say him. He's a popular answer. And just finally, Maurice, if you've got any closing message, just to more in particular, I guess, your UK supporters. There's a lot of guys who, of course, got to know you after beating Flanagan. They've watched you since then. They've seen you become a world champion. They've seen you unify very quickly. They've seen you beat Salcedo. It's another fight here that we're really, really invested in. What's your message to those guys that support you from over here and want you to pull off this upset win, quote unquote?
Thanks for the support. Make sure you watch the fight and don't blink, because I'm coming with everything I have and put my eye to this fight, and I'm going to give y'all the fans something to watch.
And I believe every word you say. Listen, Maurice, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, my friend. I wish you the absolute best of luck for March 20th. I hope you get the win, and I hope to speak to you sometime after, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Just one thing to mention, and we're recording this podcast on what are we, on a Tuesday evening. Obviously, it will go out on, I think we're going to put it out on Wednesday this week. Again, this is kind of irrelevant if you're listening to it. You know what's gone on if you're listening to it already. But the plan is we're recording it on the Tuesday. I'm hoping to put it out on Wednesday. As we speak right now, the one piece of news is that Joseph Parker has split from his long-term trainer Kevin Barry, and he is currently in the air right now as I speak. He's in the air, but by the time you listen to this, he would have landed, I hope. He's coming from New Zealand to the UK. Rumour has it that Tyson Fury made a suggestion that perhaps if he's looking for a new trainer, he should look at Andy Lee, who of course has an involvement in Tyson Fury's camp along with Sugar Hill Stewart. So that is apparently the rumour. I was hoping to get Joseph on actually before he jumped on the plane. As it stands right now, it would be great to get him on shortly after he lands. Again, if that can be done, he will be our second guest. If not, then hopefully we'll get him on. Hopefully for next week's show. But if not, because right now I'm unsure, then that is the piece of news. What do you think about that, Eddie? Andy Lee possibly being Joseph Parker's head trainer. Quite a cool one, and it's based on a suggestion from Tyson Fury. Again, it's a bit of a rumor, but if Joseph does come on either this week, later on in the show, or next week, then we'll get it from the what did they say, from the horse's mouth.
Honestly, I like the idea. Andy Lee was a cerebral fighter. I think he done some good things obviously in his career as a fighter, and I think as a trainer. With the way he fought and, the way he broke down fights, obviously with, with him being in the ring, I don't think it would be a bad idea. I mean, Joseph Parker is a pretty talented fighter. He's done well already. He's got enough of a resume, and he understands enough, of boxing in the ring. It's not like he has to be brought along. So Andy's job won't be as hard. It's just kind of giving him pointers in certain areas, helping out his, helping his IQ a bit in certain parts, you know what I mean? Just watching over him, so to speak, you know what I mean? Like a guy in the corner, sometimes guys, a trainer could be a guy who doesn't really have a lot of boxing experience, you know what I mean? And he's just basically watching over what you do and kind of giving you ideas and different things like that in the corner. If there's a few trainers out there that, don't really have any boxing experience, but then when you look at Andy Lee, he obviously has a lot. So it will even improve Joseph Parker as a fighter, I believe. I mean, I'm not saying that his trainer in the past wasn't good. Obviously, he was, a pretty good trainer, got him to a world title. So, but I just think this is a good marriage. It can definitely work out if that's what's going on. So it's something I'm actually looking forward to. I want to see what Andy can do as a trainer and as Joseph Parker's with him, and what Joe can do as a fighter.
Yeah, because his former trainer, Kevin Barry. You know who that is, though, right?
The name sounds familiar.
He's the guy who Evander Holyfield got disqualified against in the Olympics.
Wow. That is him. Oh, that's him. Okay.
Yeah. So okay. he's been with Joseph Parker for a long time. I'm actually happy that they've split, and I mean that for two reasons. I mean it firstly because, more importantly, because I think Joseph Parker's looked a little bit stale. And I like Joe. I really like Joe, but I think he's looked a little bit stale, a little bit kind of disinterested in his last few fights. Despite winning them all, he just hasn't looked. He's looked a bit flat. And the other reason is that I'm not going to go into it, but Kevin Barry was quite, more than quite rude to me on one occasion. So I've never really been his biggest fan since he was quite rude to me unprovoked. Shall I say it? Let me think. No, I can say it. I guess it's not that big of a deal. When Joseph Parker came to the UK to fight Joshua, he was training inside David Hayes' gym, and if you remember, Malik Scott was in Parker's camp for that fight. So he actually travelled to the UK with Parker, and he was kind of overseeing things, and he was there in Hayes' gym. And obviously, me and Malik go back a long way as well, so I got to see him, and I was kind of like speaking with him. And then it was at the time when basically they'd asked the media to clear out of the gym, and I was, no one had actually left yet, but people were getting ready to go, and I maybe might have been standing in a kind of area of the room that maybe looked like I didn't want to leave, but that wasn't the case. I was just simply talking to Malik, and he decided to come over and basically say, like, who are you then? And I said, like, who I was, and he didn't care for who I was, and then he just said, like, you'll be going with them as well then, and he just walked off, and I thought, what the hell's wrong with you, so, yeah, so, and I, yeah, like, just, things like that can just ruin your day kind of thing. So I felt a bit silly, to be honest. And yeah, kind of it ruined the moment, because like I say, I probably hadn't seen Malik for a couple of years, and then like, that, and he saw the whole thing. It wasn't nice. So I've seen him do interviews though, and he comes across like he's a really nice guy, but obviously with the cameras off on that occasion, that was enough. I'm not gonna wish him much success after that, but
yeah, because see, the thing is, a lot of guys like that, they don't really have a lot of shine, in recent time, and they want to feel sometimes like a little more important, or he's either that, or I mean, he's a trainer too, so I mean, he's kind of like in the limelight a little bit, but or it's they don't see you as anything, so it's like they treat you like you ain't shit because they feel you're not shit, and the reality of that is that's not right at all. You should treat, no matter who you're talking to, especially a member of the media, because now granted, media people can be dickheads and they can do dirty shit, but that wasn't obviously what you were doing.
No.
All you were doing was talking to a friend. You know what I mean? And that's kind of just it's kind of unfortunate that things like that happen, but don't feel bad. I mean, this happened to the best of them. Shit. Remember at Ivana's fight? And
yeah.
I was trying to get to the back, and the motherfucker stopped me. I'm like, of all the motherfuckers in the pit, you stopped me.
But Eddie, that was a security guard who's,
Exactly.
their job is to be mean at times,
No, it wasn't even that he was being mean.
Yeah,
it was just, of all the people, he stopped me.
No, I know.
I had all it. Now, I get it. He didn't know who I was. I'm not even that big of a name. I'm a big enough name, but in the area, but still, of all people, he stops me in the camp. And I say, you know what? I don't argue with, I don't argue with them. I don't. I just don't. So anyway.
No. But this was just like for no reason at all. And I remember his son was there as well, and Malik was saying to his son like, "Oh, take a picture of me and Joey," and like he did, he took a couple pictures, and then Malik said to me like, "Oh, let's jump in the ring, like let's jump in David Hayes' his ring and take a picture." And Kevin Barry's son was a bit like, "Oh no, don't do that, like Dad'll go crazy." And Malik even looked a little bit like say again?
Like what? Like
no. He even looked a little bit like, "Oh, all right, yeah, we better not do that then." Like he was almost a little bit, I don't want to say weary, but a bit like he didn't want to get on the wrong side of him as well. So I don't know, bad energy all round. But let's move on, because he doesn't really deserve a mention on this show. Anyway, getting on to the preview part of the show, we're going to go now to Friday the 12th of March in the Bolton Whites Hotel in the UK. Over here, it's going to be on ESPN Plus as well for the listeners in the States. Lewis Crocker, 12-0 for the WBO European Welterweight title against Denis Ilbay, who's 22-2. 22-2. Gary Cully, 11-0, fights for the vacant WBO European Lightweight title against Viktor Kotichigov, who's 12-1. That one loss came to Maxi Hughes when he had a brilliant 2020. He upset him in Dubai. Also on the card, one of our friends, both me and you, Eddie. Isaac Lowe, one of the most underrated fighters in Britain, 20-0 with 3 draws. He's back in a 6-rounder against Johnny Phillips, who's 5-6. Moving out now to Australia. One fight to mention over here, down under. Ebony Bridges, a lady that's massively spoken about in the sport of boxing, probably not for her boxing skills. She's back in an 8-rounder. She's 4-0. It's for the vacant Australian National Boxing Federation Australasian female super bantamweight title. In the other corner, Carol Earl, who is 3-3 with a draw. Ebony Bridges, I think, wins that fight, then comes straight to the UK for, I think it's a world title fight next for her. I'm excited to see her over here anyway. In another part of Australia, at the Bendigo Stadium, Michael Zarafa, 27-4, former opponent of Jeff Horn, former opponent of Kell Brook. He fights for the vacant WBA Oceania middleweight title against Anthony Mundine. I think he's probably retired about 4 times, but he's back here. This will be his 59th fight. He's 48-10. Blake Caparello as well on the undercard, 30-3 with a draw against Faris Chevalier, who is 11-1. That's over 10 rounds there for the WBA Oceania light heavyweight title. Moving out now to Thailand, we've got Wisaksal Wangek, 49-5 with a draw. The man that stopped Chocolatito Roman Gonzalez twice. He's back against Ekawit Songnoi, who is 50-7 with a draw. I think that's still going ahead there, but Wangek, as I always say, absolutely loves. He loves to eat rodents in his spare time. Mohegan Sun Casino now in Connecticut, USA. Going over here for friend of the show, David Benavidez, 23-0. He's back against Ronald Ellis, who's 18-1 with 2 draws. That's over 12 rounds there. Also on the card, Quadratilo Abdukokorov, who is 17-0. He's in a 10-rounder against Javier Flores, who's 15-2. He's up in the rankings, Abdukokorov. So, he's up in the rankings at welterweight. A decent fighter by all accounts. Haven't seen much of him. Also on the card, Jamonte Clark, who's 15-1 with a draw, takes on friend of the show, Terrell Gaucher, who's 21-2 with a draw. He has had a bit of a stop-start career, not much momentum gathered for Gaucher, unfortunately. And moving out now to the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, USA. Over here, Solomon Sissoko, 11-0 in an 8-rounder, no opponent just yet. Austin Williams, 7-0 in an 8-rounder against Dennis Duglin, friend of the show, 22-7. A lot of people will be hoping that Dennis Duglin can actually pull off the upset there. It will be an upset. He hasn't had much notice, but he's a good guy, Dennis Duglin. I'd like to see him win. Also on the card for the WBA Super World Light Flyweight title, Hiroto Kayaguchi, 14-0 against Axel Vega, who's 14-3 with a draw. Juan Francisco Estrada, 41-3, takes on Chocolatito Roman Gonzalez, 50-2. It's for the WBC and WBA World Super Flyweight titles. This really is one for the hardcores, man. But I've got to say, Eddie, do not miss this one. This is going to be a brilliant fight. The pair have had a... I think they've had 1 or 2 before. Again, I don't follow the lower weights as well as I should, but I know this is a fight for the hardcores. This is a good, really good fight. It definitely will contain action. And a rematch, I've left it till last on the card. They say ladies first. I've gone ladies last here. Jessica McCaskill, 9-2, defends her WBC, WBA, IBF, IBO and WBO welterweight female world titles against the former undisputed champion Cecilia Brackhouse, who is 36-1. It's over 10 2-minute rounds. Again, I was going to be interviewing Brackhouse before the fight. The first fight, I should say. And it fell through. Because, well, it's a long story, but it fell through. Fight took place and Jessica McCaskill pulled off the upset. And then I just got Jessica on the show. And, here's the rematch. And since then, I've found out a lot more about Jessica. Like I say, she went from being homeless to becoming an undisputed world champion, and she is a huge inspiration, and she is so good for women's boxing, honestly. And I am supporting her in this fight. I hope she can go out and win, because the first fight was extremely close. It really could have gone either way. Perhaps she got a bit lucky that the fight was in the US. Imagine if the fight took place, in Brackhouse's backyard. It could have been extremely different. So it's a great fight. It's a great rematch. It's for the undisputed titles there at welterweight, and hopefully the winner gets a big fight. But I'd like to see McCaskill win. I'd like to see her win more decisively. But Brackhouse just has the mindset of a true champion. She, is so experienced, so well schooled, trains alongside men all the time. I think so does McCaskill, but I don't know, man. Brackhouse I think she's coming with something special this time around, and I think McCaskill will have to be even better if it's possible, because that was by far the best performance of her career. By the way, look out for this, and if you see it, then I'm going to give away a little prize, actually. There's a competition right here. Jessica McCaskill supposedly has the name BoxHard Podcast written on her, well, over here we call them on like her, I guess, track bottoms, tracksuit bottoms, whatever. But she has got, apparently, for Fight Week, she's got these fight pants, as she refers to them. And apparently, they say BoxHard Podcast on them. So if anyone that's listening to me, the first person that sees them on social media or on the TV, whatever it is, and takes a picture of them with BoxHard Podcast clearly on show, the first person to take a picture of that and send it in will win a BoxHard Podcast t-shirt, which, by the way, is a prized possession now worldwide. So the lucky person that sends that in, the first person, I'm hoping it's still happening. It was supposed to be happening. I haven't heard anything for a while, but apparently it says BoxHard Podcast on her Fight Week pants. So that is interesting. And the final fight to mention, it actually takes place on Tuesday of next week, but I'm going to mention it here because by the time the show goes out next week, the fight would have took place and we will review it. But it's part of the previewing right here. It's happening at the Hotel Plaza in Quebec, Canada. Over here, the ring return, finally, of Oscar Rivas. He hasn't boxed since that loss to Dillian Whyte, and it was a brilliant fight. I couldn't wait to see him back in a ring right after that fight. Dillian Whyte obviously has come back, and he's been stopped. He's been stopped by Povetkin. He's in a big rematch coming soon in Gibraltar. But Oscar Rivas completely gone off the radar, off the back of his biggest profile fight, and it doesn't make much sense. He's back here in an 8-rounder against Silvera Lewis, who's 8-5, but there's still some big nights for Oscar Rivas. The thing is, that fight against Dillian Whyte was in 2019. I know there's been a pandemic, but he really needs to get moving now. He's a dangerous fight for a hell of a lot of the top heavyweights. But anyway, that's it for the preview part of the show. The final thing to do just before we wrap up this week's podcast is for me to come in with the outro in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 282 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the former WBO Super-Lightweight World Champion, Maurice Hooker. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. We will try to get Joseph Parker on next week's podcast, as everything was a little bit rushed this week and the show has gone out a day early. Remember to tell a friend about the podcast. Be on the lookout for Jessica McCaskill's pants. Stay safe, enjoy your weekends, people, and we shall see you all again next week.